its prison population. The state's adult prison population has declined gradually from about 163,000 at its peak in 2006 to roughly 120,000 today. The decline has been due in large part to California's public safety realignment legislation adopted 3 years ago in response to the U.S. Supreme Court decision ruling California's prison system unconstitutional for its overcrowding in violation of the 8th Amendment ban on cruel and unusual punishment. And this realignment process has begun transferring authority for a large number of non-serious, non-sexual felony offenders from the state prison to the counties, often to local jails. And the governor has sought to privatize our prison system, making it cheaper or more cost-effective to cage human beings en masse. So indeed, while the decline in California's prison population might seem at first glance to be a pure victory, there is reason for real concern. History has shown that what happens in California often sweeps the nation, so what type of reform happens here has implications for the nation as a whole and for the future of race in America. Now, I know there are people who are saying the pendulum is already swinging here in California nationwide, and that, experts and policymakers are doing a good job tinkering with this machine, and it's just a matter of time before they get it right. But those who think that piecemeal policy reform and tinkering with this machine will ever result in anything like justice are making a serious mistake. Required of us, from all of us, if we are ever going to change course and truly reach a higher ground. We're going to have to challenge ourselves and ask ourselves, what attitudes and belief systems must we change personally, individually? Must we change if we're going to respond with more care, compassion, and concern to those who have been locked up and locked out in the era of mass incarceration? It's easy to point the finger at politicians, but what about our own attitudes about crime and criminals? Whose stories are we willing to listen to? Whose stories do we believe or disbelieve? Who do we consider the others? And who do we embrace as one of us? Who do we really care about? These are the questions that we must ask if we are going to get to work building a movement. And I believe firmly that nothing short of a major social movement has any hope of ending mass incarceration in the United States. And if you're tempted to think something less will do, that surely something less than a full-scale movement will do, consider the sheer scale of this system today. If we were to return to the rates of incarceration we had in the 1970s, before the war on drugs and the Get Tough movement truly kicked off, we would have to release 4 out of 5 people who are in prison today. 4 out of 5. More than 1 million people who are employed by our criminal justice system would need to find a new line of work. Most new prison construction has occurred in predominantly white rural communities. Communities that have often been sold on prisons as an answer to their economic woes, and very often these prisons are advertised as offering way more benefits than they ever deliver. But nonetheless, these communities have come to believe that their economies depend on prisons for jobs. Private prison companies now listed on the New York Stock Exchange and doing quite well even in a time of economic recession. Those companies would be forced into bankruptcy. This system is now so deeply rooted in our social, political, and economic structure, it's not going to just fade away or downsize out of sight without a major upheaval, a fairly radical shift in our public consciousness. Now, I know there's people who will say, yeah, the problem is big, but it doesn't help to talk about race right now. we can't build a racial justice movement. It just scares people. We have to just learn to play politics smart. This is about dollars and cents. We've got to be strategic and learn how to play the political game. We can, engage in movement building later. Let's just squeeze what we can out of the current political moment and see how far we can get. This kind of pragmatic fiscal talk and this colorblind approach is understandable, but it leads to a dead end. What we face in this nation is a profound moral crisis.